My dear ones, let me begin from the day everything changed. Until then, life was ordinary, peaceful. I was 75, living in my little home, surrounded by memories and the laughter of my grandchildren. My days were filled with small joys, watering the flowers in the garden, knitting warm sweaters for the little ones, telling them bedtime stories. I was old, yes, but I felt alive. I thought I would spend my remaining years quietly, with love, and with family. One morning, I felt a pain in my chest. At first, I ignored it. At my age, pain is a familiar companion. But soon it grew sharper. My daughter insisted I see the doctor. I remember sitting in that cold hospital room, the smell of medicine in the air, my hands trembling as I waited for the results. The doctor walked in, his face serious. He sat across from me, and in a heavy voice, he said, "You have cancer." For a moment, I could not breathe. It felt as though the ground beneath me had disappeared. I looked at my daughter, her eyes filled with tears, her lips shaking. My heart sank, not for myself, but for her, for my family. I thought, how will they bear this? How will they live without me? My mind filled with questions. Why me? Why now? Haven't I lived through enough already? That night, I sat awake by the window. The world outside looked so peaceful, the moon shining, the trees swaying in the wind, but inside me there was only storm. I thought of death. I imagined my grandchildren growing up without me. I imagined my chair empty, my stories unfinished. I felt fear I had never known before. At 75, I had accepted that life was slowing down. But I was not ready to say goodbye. When I told my grandchildren, the youngest asked me, "Grandma, are you going to die?" Those words pierced my heart. I hugged him tightly and whispered, "Not yet, my child. Not yet." But inside, I was unsure. I felt weak, lost, and helpless. Cancer, such a terrifying word. It felt like a shadow had entered my home, a shadow that would not leave. The next few days were filled with hospital visits, medical tests, and the constant echo of the word treatment. Every doctor's explanations sounded complicated, frightening. I tried to be brave, but when I was alone, I cried silently. I was 75, too old for such a battle, or so I thought. In my heart, I feared this was the beginning of the end. But little did I know, this was not the end of my story. It was only the beginning of a new chapter, one that would test my strength, my faith, and my love for life. The days after my diagnosis were some of the darkest I had ever seen. Every morning, I woke up with a heavy heart, and every night, I lay in bed with tears on my pillow. The doctors began my treatment. Chemotherapy, they called it. I had heard the word before, but I never truly knew what it meant until I felt it in my own body. The first session left me weak. I remember sitting in that hospital chair for hours, the medicine slowly flowing into my veins. I told myself, be strong, but by the time I reached home, I could barely stand. My head spun, my stomach turned, and soon, I began losing my hair. Each strand that fell was like a reminder of the battle I was fighting. When I saw myself in the mirror, I hardly recognized the woman staring back. She looked older, weaker, fragile. Nights were the hardest. I would lie awake, listening to the clock tick, wondering if I would live to hear it tick tomorrow. The pain in my bones made me cry silently, so that my children would not hear. I did not want to burden them with my suffering. Sometimes, I would whisper to myself, maybe this is it. Maybe I won't make it. But then, in the quiet of the night, I would hear soft footsteps. My granddaughter, only 8 years old, would sneak into my room, carrying her little blanket. She would curl up beside me and hold my hand. "Grandma," she whispered once, "don't go anywhere. I need you to tell me more stories." Those words, they pierced my heart, but in them, I found a spark of strength. I realized I was not just fighting for myself. I was fighting for them, for the children who still needed my love, my presence, My stories. My family tried everything to keep me strong. My daughter cooked me warm soups when I couldn't eat solid food. My son drove me to every appointment, no matter how busy he was. My grandchildren drew me pictures, smiling sons, strong grandmas with capes, and messages like, "You can do it, Grandma." I taped those drawings to the wall beside my bed, so that every morning when I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was hope. Still, the struggle was real. My body ached, my energy drained, and there were days I wanted to give up. But every time I thought of surrendering, I remembered the little faces that looked up to me. They believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And so, I told myself, one more day. Just one more day. If I can survive today, maybe tomorrow will be better. And little by little, day by day, I began to find courage in the middle of pain. My struggle was not over, it had only begun, but something deep inside me whispered, "This is not the end of your story." As the weeks passed, my body grew weaker, but my heart began to grow stronger. And the reason was simple: my family and my faith. Without them, I would not be telling you this story today. My children never let me fight this battle alone. My daughter sat by my bed every night, holding my hand until I fell asleep. She would whisper, "Mother, don't be afraid. We are with you." My son, even after long hours of work, would still drive me to the hospital. He never complained. He would smile and say, "Mom, this is just another road trip. We've been through many, and we'll get through this one, too." Their love wrapped around me like a warm blanket, keeping the cold of fear away. And then there were my grandchildren. Oh, how they lit up my darkest days. They would come into my room with their laughter, carrying little gifts, a drawing, a flower from the garden, a kiss on my cheek. One day, my grandson looked at me and said, "Grandma, you're a superhero. Cancer can't beat you." I laughed through my tears. Imagine that, at 75, being called a superhero. And maybe he was right. Faith also became my anchor. Every morning, I prayed. I closed my eyes and asked God not just for strength, but for peace. I learned to be grateful, even in pain. Grateful for another sunrise. Grateful for the taste of warm tea. Grateful for the sound of birds outside my window. These small blessings reminded me that life was still beautiful, even in the middle of suffering. Slowly, I began to change how I lived. I ate healthier meals, even when my appetite was gone. I tried to walk in the garden, one slow step at a time, feeling the earth under my feet. I learned to breathe deeply, to let go of fear, and to welcome calm. My faith told me, every breath is a gift. Use it well. At times, I felt like giving up, but then I would see my family's faces. They were watching me, learning from me. And I realized I was not just their mother or grandmother, I was their example. If I gave up, what lesson would I leave behind? But if I kept fighting, maybe they would remember me as the grandmother who never surrendered. That thought gave me power. And so, even in my weakest moments, I chose to keep going. My family gave me love. My faith gave me courage. And together, they lit a flame inside me that cancer could not extinguish. My journey with cancer was not short, my dear ones. It was long, painful, and filled with moments when I thought I would not see another sunrise. Some days, even lifting a glass of water felt like climbing a mountain. My body was tired, my bones heavy, my spirit tested every single day. The doctors often looked at me with doubt in their eyes. They said, "At 75, recovery will be very difficult. The body is fragile. The chances are low." Their words pierced me like sharp knives. For a moment, I almost believed them. But then I remembered the faces of my family, the little voices calling me grandma, and I said to myself, they may see me as fragile, but inside, I am still strong. Stronger than they know. Chemotherapy continued. The medicines burned through my veins, leaving me drained. There were days I could not stand. Days when food had no taste, when even the smell of soup made me sick. I would sit by the window, looking at the garden, whispering, "Is this what my life has come to?" But then I would close my eyes and imagine myself healthy again, walking with my grandchildren, telling them stories, celebrating birthdays. That vision became my fuel. Slowly, I learned the art of patience. I learned that healing is not a race, it is a journey. I began to measure progress not in leaps, but in tiny steps. One less painful day, one smile in the mirror, one moment of laughter with my family. These small victories were my medicine. And then, one day, something unexpected happened. I remember sitting in the hospital, waiting for my test results. My heart pounded like a drum, my hands cold with fear. The doctor walked in, holding the papers. His face, usually serious, softened. He looked at me and said, "Margaret, your body is responding better than we expected. The cancer is shrinking." For a moment, I could not believe what I heard. I looked at my daughter, her eyes wide with hope. Tears rolled down my cheeks as I whispered, "Thank you, God, thank you." That moment changed everything. It was like a new breath entered my lungs, a new fire entered my heart. The battle was still not over, but now I knew I was winning. The shadow of death that had loomed over me began to fade. I felt lighter, stronger, more determined. I told myself, if I have come this far, I will go further. I will not stop until I am free. My dear children, that was the turning point. The day when fear began to lose, and hope began to win. Months passed, and I continued my fight. The road was long, but every step brought me closer to the light. Finally, the day came for my final test results. I sat in that hospital room, my heart beating faster than it ever had. My children stood beside me, holding my hands tightly. The doctor entered, his smile brighter than I had ever seen. He looked at me and said the words I had been praying for, "You are cancer-free." In that moment, time stood still. My daughter burst into tears. My son hugged me so tightly, and my grandchildren clapped with joy. I, too, wept. But they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of gratitude, tears of victory. At 75, when many believed I was too old to survive, I had defeated cancer. I felt as if life had given me a second chance, a new beginning. The weeks that followed were filled with reflection. I would sit in my garden, feeling the sun on my face, and I realized how precious life truly is. We often take it for granted, the breath we breathe, the food we eat, the laughter of family, even the smallest joys like the song of a bird. But when you face death, you begin to see life differently. Every sunrise becomes a blessing. Every smile becomes a treasure. I also realized that strength is not measured by age. People often think old age makes you weak. But I say, old age gives you wisdom, patience, and a deeper will to live. At 75, I discovered a power within me that I never knew existed. A power stronger than fear, stronger than pain, the power of hope and love. My dear children, my story is not just about cancer. It is about courage. It is about faith. It is about never giving up, no matter how dark the night may seem. Life will test you, sometimes in ways you never imagined. But if you hold on, if you believe, if you fight, miracles can happen. So, to anyone listening, especially those who feel tired, weak, or ready to give up, remember my words. If an old grandmother like me can face cancer and come out victorious, so can you. Do not let fear steal your days. Do not let pain steal your smile. Every day you wake up is a chance to fight, to live, and to love. And when my little grandson asked me again, "Grandma, are you going to die?" I smiled, hugged him close, and said, "Not today, my child. Not today."